Hello and welcome back to Angels of Purpose Ministries, where we feature soul food, food for your soul. And so today we are going to talk about elections. But before we get into that, make sure you check out Angelsofpurpose2025. Also, if you have any questions, you can go to our Contact Us page on Angelsofpurpose.com, fill out your information, I'll get back with you. Or you can email me directly at ministertiffany@Angelsofpurpose.com. All right. So let's get into this. Please make sure you share, you like, you comment, whether you're watching on Substack, whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching on Instagram, whether you're watching on Threads. Make sure you share this video because I'm sure it's going to be very informative and a lot of people want to see it. So help the algorithm out and share it and like it. All right, so here we go. I'm not only going to be talking about the state of Georgia, but if you're having runoffs, I'm not going to have your runoff dates, but you should know when your runoffs are. If you don't, contact me and I'll let you know. But I will be talking about runoffs and how the electoral college and the election system works today. All right, so let's get into this. Georgia's electoral system is facing a pivotal cycle, right? The intersection of runoff timelines, historical mechanics, and a push of structural legislative power is driving state politics. Now, the 2026 Georgia runoff calendar involves June 16th, which is the runoffs. So for some of you, you might not know this, but for the primary elections, for the people who didn't get 50% or more of the people who voted votes, they have to have a runoff, even if they had more votes than everybody else, because that's how it's set up to work. And I'll explain and break that down in just a moment. Now, if no single candidate clears that threshold, a runoff occurs between the top two finishers. Now, the key dates for 2026 for the primary runoff election, the election date for that is June 16th, 2026, okay? This was triggered by the May 19th primaries for those who did not receive that 50% or more majority, okay? So, I'm not going to go into in depth about the GOP because that's not my party, but I will tell you the ones who have races that's going to be going into the runoffs. But I'm a Democrat, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm proud to be a Democrat, and I will go more deep in detail about the Democratic elections. But here we go. For the GOP, which is the Republican Party, okay? For Senate in Georgia, you have Mike Collins and Derek Dooley. They were the top two vote getters. Mike Collins, 40%, Derek Dooley, 30%. For the GOP governor, you have Burt Jones, Rick Jackson. Burt Jones, 38%, Rick Jackson, 32%. Again, I'm a staunch Democrat. I would not vote for any of these people. I will be voting on the Democratic ticket side, but this is for the people who may not be like me, but still listen or watch my podcast and watch my videos. So I want to give this information to you. But I also want you to think about, why are you voting for these people? Is that voting in your interest, or is it just helping the top 1%? Okay. And I'll break that down for you, and you can go look at my past videos and you look at my present and future ones, and you'll see why the GOP, the Republican Party, is not the party that helps the marginalized, that helps the people who are need to be helped. Which, if you proclaim to be of God, Jesus said for us to help the sick, those who, the widows, the widowers, the kids, all of that, right? And the Republicans don't think about that. So, all right, let's keep going. For Lieutenant Governor, you have John F. Kennedy, only got 27%, and Greg Dozel, 23%. Again, these aren't people I would vote for. Now, let's get into some of my Democratic people for Lieutenant Governor. Here we go. You got Josh McLaurin, 41%, Nabila Parks. Now, I voted for Nabila Parks. 39%, and I would say in June 16th. And remember, our work is not done. So for the primary Democratic ticket, you want to go back and vote on June 16th. Nabila Parks is only a 2% difference in the early, I shouldn't say in the early, but in the May 19th, who voted for Josh McLaurin versus Nabila Parks. All right, so go back and vote for Nabila Parks. For the Secretary of State, this is going to be the Republican Party. You have Tim Fleming, 39%, Vernon Jones, 27%. I'm not a Republican, so whoever, if you're a Republican, vote your heart, whatever. But for the Democratic side, Secretary of State, we have Ms. Penny Brown Reynolds, who is an ordained minister. She received 42%. And then you have Dana Barrett, 35%. Okay. Penny Brown Reynolds is who I voted for. All right. And who I am going to vote for again on June 16th. That will be that Tuesday, June 16th, I will be voting, okay? Again, so I implore you all to go out and vote, because these are the runoffs for the people who didn't get 50% or more. And I'm going to break that down why this happens, so hold on a moment. We getting there. For the Democratic Commissioner of Insurance, you have Keisha Shawn Waits, 42%, and DeAndre Mathis, 20%. I voted for Keisha Shawn Waits. That's who I would tell you to vote for, Keisha Shawn Waits. For the Democratic Commissioner of Labor, you have Nikki Porcher or Michelle Michi Sanchez. All right, Nikki Porcher, 31%. Michelle Michi Sanchez, 26%. Again, I'm not a Republican, but I will tell you for the state school superintendent, the Republicans that are in the runoff are Richard Woods, 49.89%, or Fred Longier, 29%. Okay. For these different districts, if you are in these districts I'm about to call out, you're having runoff elections in these districts. For the Republican District number 5, Josh Tolbert and Bobby Mahan. District 1 for the Democrats, Joyce Marie Griggs or Amanda Hollowell. Now, that's not my district, so whoever you choose for those, that's you. For Democratic U.S. House District 7, you have Tony Kozicki and Case Norton, okay? For District 11, for the GOP, again, I'm not a Republican, but I'm just going to give y'all this information. John Cowan and Rob Atkerson. For Democrats, U.S. House District 12, if you're in District 12, you have Soretta Smith and Tracy Cree George, all right? For the runoff, which will take place on June 16th. This is for the primaries. For if you're a Democrat, these are the Democratic runoffs. You're Republican, it's having a Republican runoffs on June 17th for those. June 16th for those who did not get 50% or more. Now, because of the 2026 is a midterm year following the presidential cycle, the stakes are elevated. Okay, we do have an incumbent Republican Governor Brian Kemp who. He can't run again, right? His term is limited, leaving the seat wide open. High-stakes primary fields on both sides are competing fiercely, making a June 16th primary runoff on the Republican side. But guess what? Oh, the Democrats. All right, we were together on Miss Keisha Lance Bottoms, all right? For the big cities anyway, not for the rural areas or the small towns. But thank God for those in the cities who help everything got pulled off around Atlanta, Macon area, and then the bigger cities in southeast, southwest Georgia, okay? For the state legislative seats, all 180 seats in the Georgia House of Representatives and all the 50 seats in the state Senate are up for election. Constitutional amendments will be severely impacted by this. Now, let me tell you what the Republicans are truly trying to do while they're redistricting these maps. They're not only just trying to get their people, make sure they win, but they want to get a 2/3 majority so that then they can start changing the Constitution. All right, so this stuff you won't be hearing in your churches. You won't probably learn anywhere else, especially if you're in South Georgia, unless you come to my Angels of Purpose site and learn it. And we're going to get more education and more in-depth on other things for you as well. The government, we're going to do Black history, because if we don't teach it, you may not hear from it because they don't teach it in schools. All right. The history, why Georgia has runoff elections. Georgia is one of only a few states that enforces a majority vote requirement for general elections. The system roots are tied directly to the mid-20th century Jim Crow era and the suppression of Black political power. Now, historically, Georgia used a county unit system similar to localized electoral college that heavily favored rural, while white counties overgrowing urban cities. Now, in 1962, the U.S. Supreme Court struck this down as unconstitutional in Gray versus Sanders, establishing the principle of one person, one vote, right? And then in 1963, In response to losing the rural advantage system that the old boys club had in Georgia, the state representative Denmark Groover, and you can go research this for yourselves, because I always tell you, research. Just don't take somebody's word. Research it. An outspoken segregationist spearheaded the implementation of the majority runoff system in 1963. The strategy was explicitly designed to prevent black candidates from winning elections in multi-candidate fields. Under a plurality system, if several white candidates split the white vote, a unified black minority could elect the preferred candidate by forcing a head-to-head runoff weeks later. The system allowed white voters to coalesce around a single candidate, effectively neutralizing minority voting blocks. Now, let me tell you what they're trying to do, even with this, even though they have this majority thing and with this redistricting, in several counties around the Atlanta area, Fulton, DeKalb, Gwinnett, Clayton, and there's one more that I'm leaving out, Decatur, I think it is, where there's a majority black vote that votes Democrat, and there's a whole lot of women judges and women running for office. What they're trying to do now is put it so that, or not what they're trying to do, what they've done, it already got signed, that in the general election and the runoffs, they're going to take off for those positions, for those specific positions or office positions, whether the person is Democrat or Republican. So you're going to truly have to do your research and go to their websites for the people who are running to know who you're voting for. They're doing this to try to confuse people. All right, so let me finish on why they do the majority vote. Now, with the system's structural mechanics remain intact today, modern demographic shifts and high-intensity organizing has transformed runoffs into highly competitive, multi-million-dollar national focal points, right? Now, say the supermajority in the state constitution. This is what I was talking about just a minute ago. A major partisan battleground of the 2026 legislative races is the pursuit of two-thirds supermajority. That is what the Republican Party, the GOP, is trying to do. Because if they get that two-thirds, they can rewrite the Constitution. If they get the two-thirds and even the state, whatever, they can do a whole lot of things, more so than if they didn't have that two-thirds, because that's how it's written in the Constitution. Currently, Republicans have hold a trifecta. They control the governorship, the state house, and the state senate, but they do not possess two-thirds supermajority in either chamber. Now, Georgia General Assembly seats targets are House of Representatives has over 180 total seats, right? Current 99 are Republican, 81 are Democrats. Okay, so that's only 18 seats difference right there. And then the supermajority target is two-thirds. That's what the GOP is trying to do, which they need to net. That means they need to, on top of what they already have, they need to gain 21 more, okay? Because, yeah, they need to gain 21 more, not just win the Republican seats that they already have, but net 21 more seats that they didn't have, all right? Now, in the state Senate, there's 56 total seats. Currently, 33 Republicans, 23 Democrats. Supermajority, two-thirds. All right, they need to net 5 in that. Now, why the two-thirds threshold matters? Under the Article 10 of the Georgia Constitution, the state's legislature cannot alter the founding document or call a new constitutional convention with a simple majority. Doing so requires a strict two-thirds roll call vote in both the House, which is 120 votes, and the Senate, 38 votes, okay? If a party secures the supermajority, they gain the power to bypass the governor, legislate constitutional changes directly onto the ballot without requiring gubernatorial signature of fearing a veto. So if, if Keisha Lance Bottoms wins, which I hope she does win, right? Then if the GOP, which are the Republicans, gain two-thirds, which they need to gain those amount of seats that I told you, net 21 seats in one of them and 5 seats in the other. If they gain those seats, they will have the two-thirds that they need to bypass Governor Keisha Lance Bottoms. And I'm going to speak those things that are not as though they were. That's what they're trying to do, okay? Because this is how they're trying to keep their power. Also, they can call a constitutional convention, which means convening an assembly to systematically rewrite, erase, or replace portions of the state government document, right? Now, how does this affect voters? Now, this places drastic structural changes directly on the statewide ballot, where they only require a simple majority of participating voters to become permanent law, okay? Now, the perspective of civil rights and structural power. Let's go there. A constitution is not merely a legal document. It is a shield. It outlines the boundaries of state authority and anchors the fundamental civil rights of every resident, okay? From voting and access to the reproductive autonomy to equal protection under the law. When the legislative body secures the power to rewrite a constitution, the baseline rules of citizenship can be fundamentally reshaped. Now, before Trump got elected, I said if he got elected this time, he wouldn't follow the rules of the law. His administration wouldn't. They would try to send us back to before the civil rights, Jim Crow, if they could, to slavery. And the white evangelicals or national or Christian nationalists are the ones who want to rule and have power with the big 1% of the elite, right? That's what they're trying to do. That's what they want to do. That's their goal. But trust and believe. We are not stupid or ignorant. There are some of us who knows what was going on. We knew their plan beforehand. We knew what they were studying, which was Mein Kampf, Hitler's information, and they were studying all of those who tried to, have power, and studying how China's person governs, and how you can't have anybody protesting against the leadership, and they control the media, they control everything, and if people not kissing their ring, all of this kind of stuff, right? If you read Project 2025, you knew they got lied. They didn't even try to hide it because they feel no one can stop what they're planning to do, which their I'm going to say their ego, not only their ego, but their, them being so cocky and arrogant is what is going to get them, going to be the fall of them, right? It's going to be the fall of them, okay? Now, I'm not going to say this is going to all happen how we want it, as quickly as we want it. There may be tough times going in, and we have to make sure that we prepare for those, whatever kind of leader you are, and I'll break that down and go into that later, or you can look at some of my other videos and you'll see how I talked about that and what needs to be done in the communities to help people prepare for what's about to happen. Okay. So here we go. The pursuit of a supermajority determines whether the state's bedrock document remains a stable protection of civil liberties or become a flexible tool for consolidated partisan power, which means they want to rule over certain people and you have to bow down to them and they want to oppress you, right? The process for certifying election results in Georgia is structured by a strict legal framework designed to balance counting accuracy, post-election audits, and tight deadlines following major statutory updates in recent years, including Senate Bill 202 and subsequent state election board clarifications, okay? Now, the state operates on a compressed non-negotiable timeline, especially when transitioning into a compressed 28-day runoff window. Now, yes, I'm looking at my notes because this is a lot to break down to people. If you want my resources or the links to where I get all this information, email me, contact me, put it in the chat, and I'll make sure to get you the links. Okay. All right. So before any local board can certify, they must finalize the counting of all valid votes. This includes a strict deadline for provisional ballots and absentee ballot curing, okay, which must be completed by 5 p.m. on the Friday following the election day. Additionally, ballots from uniformed and overseas citizens, absentee ballotee act voters are legally counted as long as they are postmarked by election day and arrive by the same Friday deadline. Now, this is something they're trying to do away with as well, right here. Now, Georgia has 159 counties, if you don't know, and my students at the school didn't know it, but they know it now because I've been drilling them on that. How many counties Georgia have? What county you live in? How many senators do you have? All of that kind of stuff. Now, each of Georgia's 159 counties has a local board of elections and registration. They have a superintendent, and then you have the county board must officially compute, canvass, and vote to certify the returns. Again, the deadline, county certification must occur no later than 5 p.m. On the Monday following election day, exactly 6 days post-election. Now, the mandate. Georgia courts have repeatedly affirmed that county-level certification is a ministerial duty, which meaning local board members are legally required to sign off on the tabulated totals, and they cannot alter or refuse to certify results based on the allegations of fraud or discrepancies, which must instead be handled via formal court contest, right? Now, per Georgia law 21-2-498, a statewide risk limiting audit must be conducted after a general election to verify the accuracy of the voting machines. The Secretary of State selects a specific race to audit, and county workers manually recount paper audit trails from randomly selected batches. Okay? Once all 159 counties have transmitted their certified results, the final step falls on the state executive. So the Secretary of State is required to tabulate, compute, and canvass the statewide votes. This is why it's so important that we vote on June 16th to elect minister, prophetess, minister, however you want to call her, Penny Williams, all right? The deadline, the Secretary of State must certify the statewide results no later than 17 days after election day. And then after we get her as our Democratic representative, we must go back and vote the first Tuesday, or for early voting before the first Tuesday in November, to get her in office. All right. And not only her, but all the Democratic women and men. All right. That suits and fits helping the people. All right. Here we go. Almost done here. Now, the tight operational sequence can be clearly done through the exact operational window for the 2026 election cycle. So we know we just had the May 19th election day for the primaries, right? And on Friday, May 22nd, which was yesterday, the deadline for provisional absentee ballot curing and receipt of the officers or the people in the military ballots, right? And then 26, which is Tuesday, May 26th, the deadline for all counties to certify results, extended to Tuesdays due to the Monday Memorial Day federal holiday, all right? And then, because it would have been Monday, but because of Memorial Day holiday, that's why it's Tuesday. And then Friday, May 29th, risk limiting audits began at local county offices, okay? Now, after that is done, and after the runoffs are done, then we're voting for the Democrat or Republican who we choose, and you'll be able to see everybody running, whether they're Democrat or Republican, on your ticket. During the primaries, you only can see who is running based upon whether you choose to be choose that you're a part of the Democratic Party, or whether you choose whether you're part of the Republican or nonpartisan. All right, so. Now, Tuesday, November 3rd, 2026, general election cycle. That Tuesday is the election day. That Friday, November 6th, will be the deadline for provisional absentee ballot, curing and receipt of the people who are in the military. That Monday, November 9th, will be the strict 5 p.m. deadline for county level certification. And then that Friday, November 20th, is the deadline for the Secretary of State to finalize statewide certification. The current Secretary of State is one of the people who ran for the governor in the Republican primaries, and he wasn't one of the top two, right? He is the one who said he stopped the Biden and Stacey Abrams from stealing the election. They didn't try to steal the election. They just wanted to make sure that it was done correctly. But I mean, out of those Republicans and GOPs, Jackson, Burns, those two are just as ridiculous. But anyway, hopefully this cleared up a few things for you. If you have any questions, again, go to angelsofpurpose.com, our contact us page, or send me an email directly. or if you have my number, give me a call. And then if you want to be a part of the roundtable, and start speaking on information you know about and have research and have your evidence and have your sources, right? Then you can come on and speak as well and give information to the community. All right. So for whoever is, wherever you are all over this country, if you're having runoffs, make sure you go and vote on the runoffs election for your primaries, and then make sure you definitely vote in November. Now, for the area I live in, Moultrie, Georgia, Angels of Purpose will be having a canvassing team to go out and knock on doors, get people registered to vote. We will be at different locations. I'll start calling the organizations now to see if we can sit outside of their doors or right inside their doors to register people to vote. We also will be going from church to church, letting people know about that as well. That will be starting probably next Sunday. Not this Sunday, because my mom's speaking at the church, but next Sunday we will start doing that. As well as different other things I will be putting out there. I will be telling you where we will be. If you want to help, please contact me. If you want to volunteer or do whatever you feel that you're called to do to make sure that our rights, our liberties are not taken away, please contact me and let's help get things together in the areas we live in. I can help you whether you're in Southwest Georgia, whether you're in the state of Georgia, whether you're anywhere in the country, because I've worked with the National Democratic Party. And I've been right up under the person who was the head of the Democratic Party, and spoke to him, and when that person was the head. So contact us. Make sure you share this video. Make sure you like, comment. Again, you will be able to see it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Substack. All right. You have a great and wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon.